PSCP April webinar. We had some great jokes. Thanks for everybody who participated. Just some navigation. So anybody new to Google Meet, so in the lower left-hand corner is your mute and unmute your microphone. So mute during the presentation, but we'd love for you to come off mute and join us. And then feel free to also raise your hand to share your thoughts, ask and answer questions. And then we also have the lovely emoji reaction bar. So we love to see all of your guys' reactions. So feel free to have reactions at any point. Thank you, Doug. All right, and then the lower right-hand corner, we also have the chat pane. So we'll be asking questions, maybe doing a poll or two. So that's where you'll contribute and answer some of those questions as well. All right, again, remember to unmute your phone or your microphone when you ask or answer questions. And if you experience any issues or have questions throughout the webinar, feel free to contact our technology lead, Corey Niemeyer. Here's his email address for you. So corey.niemeyer@state.co.us. And he also put it in the chat. Thank you so much, Corey. All right, so we're going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us for our Public Sector Change Practitioner webinar for April. How is it April already? I can't believe the year seems to be flying by. All right, so the PSCP board is committed to bringing quality and valuable information to members, providing collaborative opportunities. So again, we encourage everybody to participate. We like to bring on people that have a really interactive presentation, and Catherine is no exception, so we're excited to have her. And then we also ensuring those impacted by change are successful with those changes. The purpose and the direction of PSCP is that we're an agnostic group of change management professionals where we can learn from each other and build knowledge. And we hope to inspire and lead change throughout the world. Again, ensuring those impacted by change are successful with that change. It kind of seems to be our tagline, so you'll hear us say that a lot. All right, so for our agenda today, we already did our jokes, our purpose, and our welcome. We'll go over the PSCP board, any announcements that we might have, and then we'll jump right into Catherine's presentation. She's going to talk to us today about having a personal board of directors, and then we'll have a question and answer session and some closing remarks. Again, here's our PSCP board members and our contact information. I myself am Jamie Joy and the production lead. So feel free to reach out to any of us if you want to join, are interested, or just have any questions. And just a reminder that we also get PMI PDUs for attending this webinar. So if you need those, we'll send out a survey at the end of today's session, and you'll fill that out and we'll send all the information to PMI so that you guys can get those PDUs. The bottom line, the more we engage, collaborate, and encourage each other, the more we will accomplish. Helping each other help others, adjust to adopt to change is why we are here. So take that leap, reach out and participate in PSCP today, and we promise it will be a lot of fun. We will look great on your resume, and you'll be giving back to the community. So you can't beat that. All right, again, your voice is very important. So again, we encourage you to participate. And if anybody is interested in presenting for future webinars, we would love to have you, so feel free to reach out. All right. So huge welcome to Catherine O'Hagan. She is the Director of Talent Development at the State of Missouri, and she's here to talk to us today about developing a personal board of directors. So I'll hand it off to you, Catherine.
Thank you so much. Let's get my screen shared and make sure I can still do that. You can see it all right? And hear me?
Yes.
All of that's functional? Awesome. I love that. Okay. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy Friday Eve. Every day is just an eve waiting for the weekend, right? So I am Catherine O'Hagan. I am going to talk with you all today about how to develop a personal board of directors. So might be a little bit different topic than y'all are used to, and maybe that's welcome. Maybe you're like, what the heck is this gal going to talk about? Well, buckle in, it'll be great. So we're going to talk a little bit about this piece, but I just want to add a little caveat. So I might say supervisor, I might say manager, I might say leader. You all in that, change space is going to be a change champion of some capacity, right? You're going to be leading folks in some regard. So you might not be a traditional supervisor, you might not be a traditional manager or what have you, but in some way you all are leading others. And today we're going to talk about how important people leaders are, not only in organizational health, but it just ensuring the well-being of our organizations. And your well-being has such a very strong impact on the well-being of the organization. So we're going to talk a little bit about all of that, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end. But first, let's dive into the agenda. So we're going to talk about organizational health. We're going to talk a bit about what we do at the state of Missouri in measuring our organizational health. So the quarterly pulse survey is how we do that. Traditional sort of well-being survey of our organization. Talk about the leader's role in organizational health, being a people leader and the well-being that is connected to that, and then developing that personal board of directors. Some folks might call it a personal board of advisors or the like. These are all interchangeable to talk about your people. Who are your ride or dies? Who are those people who are going to be with you to ensure your success as you help ensure the success of others and the organization? First, let's just do a little bit of chatting. Let's get to know each other. I'm happy to have folks come off mute and or just put it in the chat, whatever works for you. Just do a little icebreaker. Let's talk. What's your favorite childhood cartoon? This tells me a lot about people. Roadrunner, Smurfs, Batman, love it. Looney Tunes, Scooby-Doo. Tom and Jerry, adorable. Wonder Woman, another Scooby-Doo. SpongeBob, Ren and Stimpy, Looney Tunes. Lots of Looney Tunes. I love that. Oh, Rainbow Bright. Animaniacs, that was one of my favorites. Absolutely. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, love it. Lots of Tom and Jerry. It's such a classic. Now when you look at it, I don't know how many folks have littles. I have littles. And they're watching like Peppa Pig, and I'm thinking of, Tom and Jerry or any of these others. I'm like, which one of these is going wonky? My 4-year-old says tomatoes instead of tomatoes. And I just love that so much. He-Man, She-Ra, Jetsons. This is great. Awesome. All right. Now, this one's a little deeper. If you had to teach a class on one subject, what would it be? It doesn't have to be English or math. It can be underwater basket weaving if you happen to be an expert in that space. Love it. Donut appreciation. Yes. Resilience, futures thinking photography. How to put napkins in the napkin holder. Love it. Archery. I love that. David, how to accept people as they are. That's awesome. Golf. Volunteer management for gardens. It's amazing. Project management. Tips for raising teens. Yes. Loading the dishwasher. These are all so great. ADD, autism awareness. Importance of human connection. That's awesome. Tap dance. Flash math. If you could combine those, that would be awesome. That would be a class I would go to. How to not lose your key. Apple AirTags. That's the only way I've found success in that. All right, last one. What is something you are proud of this week? Personal, professional, whatever that looks like for you. What's something you're proud of? Keeping your cool. Sometimes it's just those simple things. Your retreat was awesome. Great. Congrats, Jamie. Proud of attending the webinar. Doug, I'm loving it. Getting kids to softball at 2 different locations, that is a feat. Marking up papers. Starting your own business, snaps to you, James. You made all your meetings. I love that. Staying focused, reseeding the lawn. That's a big one. We just put sod in our backyard and it's not as green as I thought it should be at this point in time. My husband keeps telling me to trust the process, and I will do that. Yep. I don't have another choice. Working to build teamwork. Fundraising event tomorrow. Love it. Tough workout. This is all good stuff. Willingness to have your back. That's great. Thank you all so much. This is really good. And what a great way to kick off. Looking at all of the chats. Now, someone's favorite childhood cartoon is what it is, right? But when we're talking later about how to build that personal board of directors, and I have some different roles they might fill, you might think back to somebody said that they would teach resilience in this webinar. That might be somebody that you want on your personal board of directors. I'm just calling that out. Maybe it is, volunteer management for your garden, whatever that might look like. But think through all of the meetings, all of the times that you have an opportunity to meet others who you admire, you look up to, anything that might be, and think about how they might fit in one way or another into a personal board of directors. Thank you all so much for this. This is really great. All right, so I want to talk first about organizational health and again, kind of what we do at the state of Missouri in that space. And it'll kind of all make sense as we make that connection between your personal well-being, having that team around you to help build that well-being, and how people leaders' well-being has such a big impact on organizational health. So the way an organization gets teammates working together in the same direction to deliver results is a huge part of organizational health. So research is going to tell you that the higher an organization's health, the better results they have, and it's a better place to work. So when you're thinking about your organizations, be it professional, volunteer, I'm on a nonprofit board, for example, when I'm thinking about our organizational health, it's going to have not only those personal connections with teammates, right? But it's that ability to deliver those excellent results. At the state of Missouri, we use our quarterly pulse survey to measure organizational health. Quarterly pulse survey is going to measure both daily habits and goals. And essentially, we're asking the same question of all team members once a quarter, same questions that revolve around how we're working together, how we're moving on major initiatives, and where we can improve. Every department has an opportunity to ask individualized questions of their team members, 3, but we have a rotating set of questions that focus on these 3 things broadly. The QPS has 5 main dimensions: direction, leadership, external orientation, motivation, and accountability. Each of the questions in our QPS is going to fall into one of these dimensions in some regard. So we may ask about leadership broadly, but we might also ask about supportive leadership, collaborative leadership, authoritative leadership, etc. And so each of them are going to be tagged in some way in order to, again, see how our organization is working together to deliver excellent results. Give it just a second to kind of take a look at those. All right. So at the state of Missouri, almost half of our QPS questions are about people leaders in some capacity. Why? Leaders have the most impact on the well-being of their team members, on the results provided by those team members, on the overall well-being of our organization. So you can see here, there are a number of recent articles within the last couple of years that talk about why it is so important to have leaders who are successful. So managers have major impact on mental health. Frontline managers are the linchpin to business success. There's an incredible amount of not only mental labor as it relates to being a leader, but emotional labor. I'm sure you all have experienced that in some capacity. It's not just about helping your team do the job well. It's also about helping individuals do the job well interpersonally, right? Connect to other people, manage up, manage down, all of these pieces. And then why being a manager matters more than ever. Leaders are expected to be heroes. They're expected to be superheroes. They are expected to be so much for so many people. There's all of the reasons why we ask these questions about the people leader as it relates to organizational well-being, organizational health. There are much fewer questions asking about that leader's well-being. We ask about the impact of the leader on the team member, on the organization, on the processes and procedures within the organization. But do we ask our leaders, how are they? What do they need? I'm sure some of you all do. I'm preaching the choir here. I totally know this. And yet some of you fill both of those spaces. Few more stats just to let it, really sink in. So there's greater employee dependence on managers, people leaders, project managers, supervisors, etc. Those who are leading the charge in some capacity since the pandemic. 77% said it's become more important for them to receive support from their manager than ever before. And going back to that concept of being a superhero, and how are our managers right now? As of May 2023, so we're getting about a year old. Maybe this has improved. I'm gonna ring up Gallup soon and say, hey, how's this going? But manager engagement and satisfaction is declining. They are actively seeking a new job. Now, this can't be everything, this connection to team members needing them more, right? But I can tell folks anecdotally are going to say, I am asked to do more with less, right? I am asked to be all for some people, and I'm not given more resources. So no, I'm not saying it's just this reason, but it absolutely plays a part. So I just want to really hone in on this part here. If y'all don't, click with anything else during this, I just want you to know your well-being is important. Whether you build that personal board of directors, whether you have that understanding of, I'm at a good place or not, your well-being is important. And so supervisor, I'm just, again, noting, some say supervisor, one says leader, all in all, we're talking about people who lead other people in some capacity. Their supportive team members, that social or caring sort of support, is a strong factor in positive organizational health. When a supervisor's view of the organization is positive, their team members' view of the organization is more likely to be as well. When supervisors are supported, when they feel supported by the organization, they provide that same support to their team members. And this is a really important one. Leaders must first relate to and help themselves before they can do the same for others. This is a big one, and that's why we're talking today about building that personal board of directors. Because even superheroes have a team. Y'all can't do this yourselves. There need to be people at the table to help you. And you can't always pick your team. You can't. Sometimes you're a project manager and you are responsible for making something happen out of what seems like nothing. And you've got a team around you. You might not know who they are, the interpersonal conflicts, the, issues or problems that are within or without, right? But you can have a team for you. And that's that concept of the personal board of directors, personal board of advisors, whatever it is that you want to call it. So a personal board of directors is going to help guide, question, support you when you are facing anything really in your life. It could be personal or professional. It could be any number of things. They may have different places in this sort of framework here. Maybe they're a connector and a counselor, but everyone on your board should have different experiences, backgrounds, personality types. If your entire board is just made up of, your supervisor, your spouse, and your therapist, might not exactly be everyone you need. Maybe you need somebody across the country that you've met through one of these webinars that can give such different perspective on challenges that have arisen in your world. But you can see here that there's some different categories that I've built out for someone's personal board of directors. When you don't know where to start, this is a good place. Your brain trust, I love that. That's a good one. So your connector helps lead you to other people. Your clarifier asks questions. That counselor provides invaluable perspective. This is such an important one. Your counselor is not there to yes you. Your counselor is there to provide perspective when potentially you don't have that. Challenger helps you reach. They are there to have that reach goal and help you get there. A coach helps push you to be your best, and a comptroller helps hold you accountable. Before you start building that personal board of directors, that personal board of advisors, or your brain trust, whatever it is that you want to call it, you're going to ask yourself about where you are now and where you want to be. What is your most important goal? When you're thinking about right now, y'all might be the most happy in whatever space you're in. If you do not have a 3 to 5 year goal, now's the time. And even if that goal is, I want to complete this training, or I want to, get a raise, whatever that might be, if you haven't thought about it and written it down, what are you working towards besides your job? This one is for you. What is holding you back? Where are you headed? It's an important time to also think, what do you do well? So back when we talked about the class that you would teach, I'm not teaching math. So I might reach out to someone who is going to help me in that space, right? But I would help teach you about child welfare. I'm a foster parent. I work in a nonprofit space on my free time, on a board for a nonprofit that works with foster youth. I'm going to be that person who, if you said, I really need someone on my board who can help me navigate child welfare, I got you. I can do that. So think about what you can do exceptionally well and provide to others, and how you can help yourself reach your goals. Don't shy away from where you need improvement. As I just said, I don't do the maths. And so if there's other people who can help you with that, awesome. But if that is a goal to do better, be better in that space, that's what you want to think about right now. What trends do you see and where you can take advantage of them moving forward? And then what limitations do you have that make you vulnerable? Think of this as that SWOT, but a little more reflective. So what are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, or challenges that really reflect personally on these things? So I'm going to make sure that you all have the form that goes with this, so you can do this at any other time. But today, like during our presentation, I just want folks, open up an email to yourself, open up your notes tab on your laptop or your phone, or classic pen and paper, whatever that might look like. And I want to have folks in an awkward silence for a few minutes. Thank you so much. Of course it was. You're great. So you have the form, you can fill out on the form, or you can just fill it out on paper now. But think through these things here, and give yourself a chance to fill some of them out. Okay, so I want us to take 2 to 4 minutes, and then I want some folks to share afterward, what is one thing you want to accomplish, or what's an area you are doing well or want to improve, any of these. So take a couple of minutes now, and let's fill this out. I should have done Jeopardy music and I have failed you. But regardless, take a few minutes and write some of these pieces out.
Definitely not, Corey. Definitely not. Catherine, it looks like somebody has raised their hand.
Yeah, go for it, Terry.
That was not intentional. Sorry. I hit the wrong
I'll
button.
take it as a high five. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, friends. I'm sure everyone didn't get through all of them, but I'd love to hear either come off mute or put it in the chat. What is one thing that you'd be brave enough to share with other folks? I will model this. One of the things that is limiting me is I am stretched in a number of areas. So I tend to overcommit because I don't feel like I'm being productive if I'm just home relaxing. And I need to understand that that's not always a limitation. Being, not too busy is not a problem. And I need to ensure that I'm able to commit 100%, not just 70 to each of the things I'm doing. So that's just one of my limitations. But is there anyone else who is willing to share one of these pieces? Finding your voice in serving others. Thank you, David. Alice, you want to set the model for excellence in your program. The ability to say no, absolutely. Follow through in project management, that's good.
Hi, Catherine. I'm the big mouth usually on this call, so mix it up.
Okay.
Limit for me, focus. So it's a mile wide and an inch deep. It's hard to get certain things done. So hoping to change that limit. Thanks.
Yeah, it's always good when thinking about these limits, right? Like who could be on my board to help model that for me, right? And so I have a colleague that I'm thinking of that intentionally commits themselves to projects. And so they have no choice but to follow through, but also to say no because they're already at 100%. Me, I'm like, I'll find the time. No, that's not a thing. Let's be more intentional. So thank you for sharing that, Doug. Learn the landscape of both public health and workforce development. New to you fields. I love that. Goal, a successful transition to your consulting practice. Great. These are all awesome. Keep it up. So as you fill this out, now, later, whenever, really be thinking thinking in a SMART goal sort of space too. So what is my goal? What do I want to accomplish? When do I want to accomplish it? And then how do my limits and my assets contribute to that? This is great. Thank you all so much. All right. So in that personal reflection space, we've written down some pieces that, good, bad, ugly. This is where we're at. This is our landscape. So now consider your plan on how to build out that personal board of directors. So on the form, you're going to see like there's a spot for name and relationship, and then why did you choose them? So if you're thinking about, a comptroller, for me, one of my limits, again, is that ability to just confidently say no when I'm already at 100% capacity. What person and what relationship do I have with, that person to help me be accountable to that in my comptroller sort of space? Maybe for you, they're more a clarifier. They're the person asking the question, why do you want to agree to that when you're already fully booked? And just think of those pieces as you fill out this name and relationship and rationale handout. But how will you ask them to serve on your board? How will you share these pieces with them? So I don't know how many folks have a formalized sort of mentor-mentee relationship. But when you think about it, sometimes these things are more fluid. They're more natural, if you will. I'm asking you all in this space to not be as fluid, to really think about this as your board of directors, as if you are operating, as a sole LLC, Who's sitting at the table with you to ensure that LLC is successful? And you have to ask them, and you have to give them parameters. And you really have to think, how will you communicate? How will you ensure that you have a good mix of personalities and backgrounds and very areas of expertise and skills? All right. Start filling this one out on that same sheet of paper or notes app, email to yourself, handout that you got from the calendar invite, whatever that looks like for you. And we'll come back together in just a couple minutes and share out again. I'm going to go back a couple of slides too, so you all can see these definitions again. Here is kind of how you might define these. So you can define them how you might need to. This is how I've outlined them. Go for it, Doug.
This may be jumping ahead, Catherine, but regarding the names, relationships, the folks that are
Yeah.
on the board, it is maybe strategies on how to recruit those folks and what's in it for them. I'm sure that might be part of your talk, but that's a curiosity for me. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk a little bit here in a second about, how you might appropriately recruit someone, but it's always a struggle, right? When I say can be difficult to say no, I can tell you that if, a mentee came to me and said, I would really like you to be on my personal board of directors, there's no way in heck I would say no. But if they did say, I feel like it's a 5-hour-a-week commitment, I'd say, gal, let's talk. And so I do think that there's always some push and pull there.
Yeah, it's truly relevant. The local chapter of the Project Management Institute has been trying, and I say it with respect, establishing a mentee or mentor protege program, and they're finding it's really, really difficult to get matches, but then also to get cadence because of what you just noted.
David, I think that's a really good note. It is hard to think about this from a work perspective because, again, you might be on a team that you do not get to choose. This is your team that you are choosing. Now, the struggle comes in when you have picked a connector and a challenger that conflict, and you've asked them to do a mini lunch retreat one day a year, right? And they are constantly giving you conflicting advice. Then it's on you on how to navigate those pieces. But I agree, it can be difficult to get your head in the right space for this. Lisa, for me, qualities in a comptroller, someone who doesn't always tell you what you want to hear, but tells you what you need to hear. I am a huge fan of I'm a huge fan of Radical Candor. I don't know how many of you all are, knowledgeable in Kim Scott and Radical Candor, but someone who cares personally but challenges directly. That's what I think of when I think of my comptroller. Helen, that's a really great point. And again, it somewhat is about that goal, right? So if your goal is very professionally connected to that public health space, you might want to settle first. Or maybe you build it out slowly. You don't have that entire board developed immediately. You start with your connector. And maybe that connector is your new supervisor, whatever that might look like. But there's a number of ways you might be able to do that for sure. Yeah, the clarifier is the person, Rachel, who asks you the good questions. So, I want better support in setting appropriate limits on myself and not always saying yes to every opportunity that comes through. This is not, a need for a yes and all the time. So I might have somebody who's saying, well, why is it that you want to say yes? What is it about this that speaks to you? Right? So the clarifier is the one who's asking the really good questions that helps you continually reflect on your goal, your limits, your assets, all of those pieces. And so lots of really good stuff in the chat. I would love to hear from you all. Did you write anyone down, and what's the relationship and why? And again, I will model the way here. My coach happens to be also named Catherine. She is my husband's cousin. We're besties, and she tells me that I have to do my best because her name's on it too. And it's kind of a joke, but she's that person who I can go to say, Catherine, you can do this. And again, she always teases me because they have the same name. She's like, I can do it. Obviously, Catherine's can do this. But she's that person who helps me achieve my goals because she helps push me in that direction. So Catherine, my cousin, is my coach in that space. But I'd love to hear from other folks. A formal mentor in your workspace is your connector. That's great. That person who's, talking you up in a room that you're not in, that is a great connector. And a mentor is certainly, hopefully, doing that for you as well. Others? Oh, Chandra, sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Clarifier is a reframer. I love that. That's lovely. That's a really good way of reframing clarifier. You did it. Good job. Your best friend, Antoinette. Love that. Love that name. Yeah, everyone needs a hype girl. Everyone needs someone who's like, you can do this. There is no self-doubt in this space. You have all the assets and you have all that you need. What's in your way? Maybe you. That's a good coach. Jamie says Gary is a good connector. Love that. Well, keep thinking of folks. I think one thing that I always come across in this is I didn't know who to write down because I don't want anyone to feel pressured to add more to their plate. And that is where you have good communication come in, right? So if you're thinking of adding, Corey to your personal board of directors, reach out and ask if they're willing to serve in that sort of capacity. Be prepared for them to potentially decline and communicate in a way that helps set boundaries and guidelines. So, Corey, I am really hoping that you can serve as my clarifier. What that means is X, and I need you in a Y sort of capacity. You won't be on call. You'll serve for the next 6 months as I attempt to complete this goal. And I would love us to meet every other week for 30 minutes to chat through where I'm at with it. Consider when board members would naturally fall off your board and set up that process for updating or changing membership. So if Corey's coming off in 6 weeks because you added him to be that person for this current goal, some people might stay on longer because they're your ongoing. They're, your Antoinette, who's always your coach in any capacity. But your comptroller is for this one 3-year goal to complete your MBA, whatever that might be. Think about how you're going to communicate with them, how you're doing the ask, how you're setting the boundaries so they know what they're getting into, and be prepared for their life to change, your life to change. But once you have it on paper or in writing and you have the set framework, you're more likely to stick to it. And so think about it in that way. Ellen, do you think this has applicability for a team or a duo? I think this might be a great tool for a new supervisor. Yeah, I definitely think it could. It somewhat depends. So really, this is framed in I'm doing the outreach for others. When I think of my supervisor and who they might want me to go towards or what have you, this is more like internally motivated, right? And so how might you help coach a team or a new team member or new supervisor, what have you, in doing this personally? That would be like my personal recommendation in that space, as opposed to like doing it for them, if you will. Not that you pose that, but I would say, generally speaking, how might you coach them through the process as opposed to setting it up for them? One key trick, I know, was it Jamie who talked about Gary? If you get your connector on first, they're right at the top. You get your connector on, you tell them what you're doing here. They're going to be that right-hand person who can help fill out the rest of the board for you and say, did you ever consider, X person on the 3rd floor? They're awesome. And I think you all would really get connected in a good way here. That person is going to be key in helping you connect to the other board members. So really, again, to sum it all up, leaders play such an important role in organizational health. Your well-being is so important to the success of the team members with which you work and the overall success of the organization. Personal advisory board, personal board of directors, your brain trust, whatever it is that you're calling it, when you have that support network, you're more likely to be self-aware because you've done this reflection. You're more likely to be engaged in your workplace because you've set goals. You have set some of those, key pieces of what you need to move forward in a positive light, and more likely to be satisfied in your role. At the end of the day, take care of yourself. Please surround yourself with people who care about you, who care about your future. You can't always pick your team. You can pick your personal board of directors. I would love to answer any questions that you all might have, be a clarifier for you, or provide any additional insight. And you all are such a positive group. Thank you so much. Really interactive, and I appreciate that.
Hey, Catherine, this is Rachel. I have a question about picking someone who can fill multiple roles.
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons of doing that?
Yeah. So when they're really skilled in that space, let's say they're both a coach and a connector, right? That's totally positive. This person can serve in both spaces, and they're very skilled in that. Great. Those are some of the positives. Some of the drawbacks are you're not really getting those differing perspectives, right? You're not adding more to the table who might add new thoughts, ideas, etc. You're not getting new insight from different spaces either, right? And so it's that one person who can serve in multiple capacities. Great. Think about that as a temporary space and see who you can fill in at another time. Because you might have somebody in your head who's like serving 3. Great. Have them do that for the time being. Just like if you hired a new team member, I need you to do these projects while I fill out the rest of the roles. And then you start to divide and conquer in a different space. That would be my personal recommendation. But again, it's about the goal. So if your goal is somewhat smaller and you need 3 people, not a full board, go for it. Make it happen. Get your goal accomplished, and then reimagine your board for your next goal.
Really good point about thinking about the size of the goal or what the goal is. Like,
Yeah.
make sure your personal board reflects the goal. Like, you might not necessarily need that role as much depending on what your goal is. So good context. Thank you.
Absolutely. And if your goal is a little more ephemeral, it's not, I'm finishing my master's degree, right? And I need people to help support me in that. Maybe it's just, I'm not operating at 100% and I'm not sure why. And so my goal is to get to 100%. And so that is a completely different goal. It's a different mindset, and you need different people on the board to help you do that. And so absolutely think about what it is you're working toward. Other questions, thoughts?
I got another one. Is there good ways to, like, sometimes when you're just in it and you're just working with those people, are there good, like, questions or thoughts to have to ensure that the relationship you have with that person is meeting the need? Like, sometimes I think it can be really easy to either get off track or maybe they end up filling a different role than you're really wanting them to fill. So, like, how do you make sure that the relationship is proving out to be what it needs to be?
Yeah. And I think that's a really great question that somewhat goes beyond just filling out the board, right? This is somewhat the start. When you think about it, what are your next steps to completing a goal? You've got milestones, you've got goalposts, you've got timeframes and timelines, like all of those things are put into place. And at some point you have, these meetings that say, I'm X% towards the completion of my goal. If you're off track, if you're yellow when you should be green, then you are reflecting, okay, what's wrong here? Like, what's going wrong? And so I think of this as the start of building that team, just like you would as a project manager. I'm building my, initiative team. And then when my initiative starts to get off track, me as the leader, the accountable party, I say, what is missing here? What's going wrong? And I need to redirect. And so how do I do that? And so this is the start. And then those milestones, those pieces in the middle are going to help you ensure that you have the right people in the right place at the right time. Great question. All right. I am happy to connect with anyone who wants to connect. Find me on LinkedIn. Just because I'm that kind of gal who's going to say, follow me on LinkedIn. Not that I have a big following. I'm not an influencer, just connecting with people. So make sure you connect with me. I'm happy to help answer any questions or give any feedback, and just be a support for you all. So thank you so much. Thanks for the invite to present, and I wish you all luck in building out your board.
Thank you so much, Catherine. What a great presentation. A lot of good responses. Another round of applause for Catherine. Everybody loved it. We're getting great remarks. So thank you so much, Catherine. This has been wonderful. I just have a couple of wrap-up things for PSCP. So let me share my screen real fast. All right. For those of you that know, we do have a book club, and we finished up our last book club, and we're looking to do a new one. So I am going to try to do a poll. This is the first time we've done a poll, so we're going to see. So I'm going to launch the poll. So those of you that might be interested in joining a book club, we are voting on which book we might want to do. So feel free to take a moment to pick which book you think might be the most interesting. And then Corey also put in the chat for any of you that are interested in getting PDUs for PMI. So we have that as well. So I'll leave that as our final remarks as we head out. Everyone have a great rest of your month, and we will see you in June for our next presentation.
And if you're looking for the poll, it's underneath the little icon on the right-hand side with a triangle, a square, and a circle. Click that and then select polls.
Let's see. I launched it, so hopefully people should be seeing it. It looks like we're getting a few votes here. Thanks, Michelle. All right, I'll leave the poll going for a little bit, and we'll stick around if anybody has any last minute questions. But thank you so much for joining April's PSCP webinar.